was not meant to happen. This could not happen. This is happening.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another special episode. This is volume number 2 of The Coach's Son Parks the Bus. We've got a very special guest with us today for this episode. We've got Dylan Watson, who is the founder. That's right, the founder of Southern Cross Athletes. That's the level of people we're bringing into the podcast these days, guys. Dylan, welcome to the podcast.
Cheers for having me, fellas. I appreciate it.
Of course.
How do we manage this, eh? How do we manage to get this bloke?
I don't know how we do
We're
it.
hitting the big time already.
It only took two text messages and I was convinced.
Exactly right. Well, obviously we're a hard-hitting podcast, but I mean, the people don't want to hear from us. They hear from us enough, twice a week. I thought, I'll let you obviously introduce what you do in your company. So, your company, Southern Cross Athletes. What do you do, and how did you come about creating it?
Yeah, for sure. Look, at a very high level, we help place kids into the college system in America. So our goal is to obviously find these guys a scholarship, but most importantly, it's walking them through our recruitment process first. So we've got like a 4-phase recruitment process where we evaluate, we prepare, we promote, we decide, and then ultimately hand them over to coaches in the US to give them that opportunity to earn a scholarship, live on campus, represent their university, and play within the US college system, basically. So that's without opening, a can of worms or going into it too far. That's sort of what we do. Probably the reason why I started it. I was lucky enough to go over and play in the US, and for me, it was a case of while I was over there, understanding the opportunity that I had and how much I enjoyed it. There were so many kids that I grew up with playing that would have been good enough. Like, Andrew's told me about, your boys, your story, who you played for, etc. You guys probably would have been good enough to go over there and play as well. But, you probably didn't know that the pathway existed. That was a big thing for me coming home and educating kids, saying like, hey, this is what this pathway looks like. Have you thought about, a different opportunity, different to what we've got access to in this country? Basically, look, it's not always a pathway for everyone, but it's a great pathway for some.
Yeah, I think it's great what you're doing because you're exactly right. I mean, obviously, living in Australia, being so far away from your big footballing nations around the world, having a bit more education and a bit easier access to open those doors up to other places around the world is brilliant. So no, well done, like that.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
I reckon.
You boys
I reckon we could still. Sorry to interrupt you there. I reckon we could still go over there at the moment. What do you reckon?
That's I know, like a few years out. Still,
Only one person on this pod is looking fit, and it's not us three.
Asking a lot of me now. Come on.
Yeah, look, if you come down to watch us play, I don't think you'd be coming back again. So.
Speak for yourself, mate.
Just touching on your business again, man. I can see it's on your website you're promoting it a lot, and a lot of big companies actually do this, about having like their core values. And I can see you've got here dedication, honesty, purpose, and respect. Just let us know what that means to yourself.
No, that's wow. It's a big question. Something that I can easily speak of.
We only ask the big questions on this pod, mate.
I can't wait for the biggest one yet. It's coming at the end. There's a certain someone that's getting thrown under the bus.
I love it.
Look, I mean, I think they're great sort of core value stuff for life. A big thing for me is it's the dedication part, right? Like if you are going to go into this, dedicate yourself to the whole part of the process, right? A to B, your preparation, everything we do while you go over there, like, leave no stone unturned as such. Dedication, honesty, and again, like an honesty, it's just a big one, right? Being honest with, your coaches, your teammates, your friends, your family, but most importantly, yourself. If you're not being honest with yourself, you're not going to get better. You need to be able to sit back and look at yourself and go, okay, am I doing enough to, get the best out of this process, or, just overall being a good human being. It's a big thing for us. And then respect, it's a big thing that we talk about. You know, you got to understand that when you're going over to America, right, you are a visitor in their country. You know, it's plain and simple. You got to be respectful. Like, guys, I went to school in the deep South. Like, I went to Tennessee. I was there at a time when Trump was coming into power. There was "Make America Great" signs everywhere. You know, there was fried chicken on that corner. There was churches everywhere. It's just different. You know, it was different, but you've got to be respectful. You know, it's their country, it's their ideals, their way of life. You know, and I think if you go in with that sort of, you know, respectful attitude, it's going to work out for you. And then, you know, finally, purpose. It's a big thing. You know, we don't want to be just representing kids that want to go over and use this as, you know, 4-year piss up in a party. Like, we want to be, you know, sending coaches, well-rounded athletes that want to go over, want to be pro footballers, want to be playing pre-professional, etc. And, you know, just giving it a red hot crack. That's a big thing. So, you know, those are a little bit about our core values. Hopefully I've answered that one okay.
Yeah, no, I've done that very well. Getting a bit emotional, actually.
Go back and do it.
We touched on this a little bit with Andrew last week, but obviously there's a lot of talent that occasionally might get missed in Australia here, or, you know, players out there that no one's heard of and, you know, just can't make their way through. They might be unlucky or some situations like that. Are there any specific requirements that that some players might need to have to join SCA or at all?
I mean, look, there's certain requirements from an eligibility perspective. Like, you know, we can't be taking professional footballers, for example. Like, if you've received money in or you've ever signed a professional contract, like the US pathway isn't for you. There's strict amateurism laws, etc. You know, you need to have finished high school. Depending on what your grades are, will determine what sort of level you're going to go into. You've got Division 1, 2, 3, and AIA Junior College. Without opening up a can of worms, there's different eligibility for each division, each association, etc. I mean, for us personally, we don't just want to be, you know, taking on any park football. We do look for, you know, elite athletes that we want to represent our brand. We want to know that, you know, we're servicing coaches in America with some of the best players in the country. Like, we want NPL footballers. We want kids that have completed high school, you know, and that are committed, you know, and are good eggs as such. You know, we'll sit down and have a Zoom call with the family, the player. We've got like our own evaluation process that we'll go through to see, okay, is this someone we genuinely want to work with? Yes or no?
Oh, amazing.
It ties in with your values as well.
No.
Sorry, mate.
No,
like, obviously,
Mate,
the
you're
family.
Aren't you, Stephen?
The family wants to know that obviously you care about their son or daughter, that, you know, they're going to be traveling overseas as well. So, yeah, obviously it works both ways. Sorry, Adam.
I was going to jump in as well and say it probably rules me out, obviously being the professional, and it definitely rules out Stephen and Adam, because they have to be able to go to school, and these guys never went to school or got good grades. So I mean, they're going to struggle.
Oh, what would you know?
Boys, I think that boat's well and truly gone.
Oh, mate.
Here's a question for you, because I know you all, you know, played NPL at respective stages of your career. Did you ever have the chance to go over?
I did. So we went to America, but I was in Greece for quite a while.
Okay.
Lived there and played there. Got offered a contract. So yeah, I mean, obviously a lot of the it's very interesting and really appreciate. So I really appreciate what obviously you're doing, because it's not the easiest. I've been over there and tried and tried and tested it as well. And unfortunately, with injuries, doing my ACL a few times, that doesn't help. But yeah, like you said, obviously being there to support the athletes while they're over there is a big thing. Essentially, when you go over there, and people don't recognize this, that you're going over there and taking somebody else's livelihood, essentially, and you're taking away their dream, and you're just some stranger from a different land taking over their dream. So 100% I agree, you got to be respectful, obviously, of the culture and the people that you're working with as well, but you got to remember that they're there to stop you from achieving your dream at times as well. So that can be a bit challenging as well.
Yeah, it's a big test. It's, you know, I say it to the boys, it's a dog-eat-dog world. You leave your ego behind now. Like, you know, you're not playing NPL anymore here. You're not known in the system. you're getting thrown into an environment where forget anything you've done in this country. It doesn't matter if you've been in an A-League club, you've gone to nationals, whatever, whatever level you played, you go there, it's a clean slate. You got to go and prove yourself. There's no politics to it. You've been brought in based off what they can see at face value. You got to go and prove yourself. And, you're working with coaches that are on, real good money. It's a full-time wage. It's taken really seriously. And it's a case of these guys need to get results to win in order to keep their jobs, put food on the table. It's black and white. The youth football gets left at home. This is you're playing with the big boys now.
It's a sink or swim kind of scenario, right? And I think it's important too. I mean, for any other kids that are potentially listening as well, is that once you're over there and you do, and I'm not too sure if obviously Dylan, you agree with me with this, but like from my experience as well, once you do go over there, you get the contract, and then you're set and you're based there. The job's only just beginning.
Yeah.
That's not the time to take the foot off the pedal and go, I've made it. No.
Yeah.
That's when you knuckle down twice as hard and you make sure you stay there.
Yeah. Yeah. Hit the nail on the head.
But me and Adam actually went to school together. And we were actually talking yesterday about we didn't even hear about anyone really going to America. Everyone was obviously wanting to make it to England, and obviously we've got a Greek background. Adam's got an Italian background. Going over there, you hear it from some random person, and you think, how the hell do they get that opportunity to go and get a scholarship to go over there? And that's why I think it's great that we've got you on here. It gives us better understanding. Wish we knew about it 15 years ago. But we wouldn't even hear about it back then.
It was funny, mate. Like when the agency I went through, this is to show my age, they sent me a letter to my house. Like, letter to your house saying, hey, do you want to come and have a trial and let's see if you're good enough. These days it's all social media and this, that, and the other.
I feel like the letter would be a little bit more exciting.
Say that again.
I feel like the letter would be a little bit more exciting to me.
I might be, it might be a new business model for us. We'll just start sending letters everywhere. So.
Well, now we know, Adam, if we want Dylan to come back on the pod for the interview, we'll just post him a letter. I'm not going to take him a letter, mate. I'm not going to take him. We'll send him a letter.
And then send us a fax back.
I was thinking the other way around. I'm going to check my letterbox to see if Dylan wants to take me over there.
It's gone into junk mail.
Call the landline. Bring the home phone.
Oh, God.
It's there,
It's there. Cobwebs. Just, Dylan, going off my question that I had mentioned before, and you touched on it a little bit now, why is it important for the kids that you might send over to know about the US system once they go over? How do you sort of prepare them? I'm not sure if you've dipped into the European side of things or how it's different in America. So how do you sort of prepare them and what do you sort of get them to do initially?
Yeah, there's a couple of ways I can answer that. I mean, you touched on the European side of things, right? So I've had people come to me before and say, hey, let's start off from European pathways, this, that, and the other. If I'm just being completely honest, lads, I never went to Europe. I don't know how it works,
Fair enough.
You hear some horror stories. You hear people paying so much money to go over and have trials and get seen, this, that, and the other. It's one of them without judging this, that, and the other, paying for a trial and things like that. I'm always a bit skeptical of, right? Mm. That's probably all I will say on it. And to be honest, I just don't know how any of that works. So for me, it was kind of like, well, I went to America. I did it firsthand. I know exactly what it's like. This is my market. This is what we do. So I think a big thing for us, when we speak to an athlete, and this is where, the sort of point of difference came in with what we do. When I went, guys, I didn't have a clue what the NCAA was, NAIA, any different association that is in America. I didn't know how long the season was going to be, what it was getting into. Kind of just sold a dream a little bit, dove into it head first. Great, let's go. And that's kind of on me, right? I didn't do my own due diligence on the front end and figure out what it is I was getting into. So I was hit with a few rude shocks when I first got there, and it would have been great to have that information before I started. So now with us, before we even sit down and speak to a family, we'll explain to them what they're going to expect, everything from an academic point of view, from a playing perspective. I'll give them a rundown of pre-professional pathways, which is something that's really important to sort of highlight because it's a bit more of a realistic goal. We then talk about the calendar year, like what's going to happen, fall semester, spring semester, what that looks like, living on campus. Then the big thing is, you talk about the financial piece, like, what's it going to cost? How many full scholarships can a program, distribute? How academic scholarships come in? Any hidden costs as well? Because, just being straight, we've got a few guys and players that are on full scholarships, but a lot of the time kids have to go in and pay first. So it's just giving parents and families that information first so they can make an informed decision to go, okay, cool. Do we genuinely want to go down this path? Yes or no? And then once they come on board with our recruitment process, we've got a keen emphasis on helping the guys prepare athletically, academically, and from a personal perspective as well. So sort of what we do, we've got a couple of key partners in that space. We work with Cyclops Performance. So they're like a performance-based company based out of Blacktown Cities, a couple of first graders from Blacktown, etc. They do everything from performance testing, training, nutrition, physiotherapy, F&C work. So we'll bring the athletes in once a year. We'll sit them down, run them through a presentation on how to best prepare themselves, for the college season. Because they've got to understand that they're going into pre-season where they're training 3 times a day. Let's be real. I don't think any of us playing NPL football here in Australia ever had 3 sessions a day at NPL level, did we?
No.
No. Very much rely on yourself. And that's what I want to ask as well regarding the level of talent you see over there compared to the boys over here. Because when I was over in Greece, what I did see was the younger kids, your early teens and your 10s, 11s, and your 9s, our players here are probably better than what the Europeans were. But the coaching they get from 12 to 16, they just shoot up.
That's where it gets
exciting. Because once you turn 16, you're playing under 20s. Once you turn 18, you are a first grader, right?
Yeah.
And that's, I think, the big difference. We're here, I think we're very much stuck with our age groups and you progress, which has benefits. But I was just interested seeing that the talent pool I thought here was better, but the coaching of them made them a lot better by the time they got to those years. What's it like over in America compared to here?
That's, again, great question. And I'd be curious to pick your brain on what you think why the coaching was better in Greece as well. But we'll go back to that in a sec. Now, don't get me wrong, this may just tell you straight. There were some people over there that I didn't think were that great at coaches. For example, the first university I went to wasn't a great school at all. Coaching wasn't great. I'll openly admit that. But I went into an association that I don't even place kids into. I'm opening up a can of worms even going down there. But that, again, just playing devil's advocate, you're not always going to get, the best coaches, etc. But what you do get is you do get full-time coaches. You get all the facilities. You're treated like you're a professional footballer, in all honesty. But I can talk about the experiences that I had with my coaches. I had a guy called Drew Courtney. He was a proper authoritarian coach. Like we would swear at training. If you were 5 minutes early, you were late, sort of thing. If you were late, you were running laps. Like just a good, hard-working, respectful bloke. He understood the game of football. He had a second in command, Luke Winter, who I thought was probably a little bit more of the tactician. He was an English guy, really good. He played at a high level. He understood football well. He set us up well. Trainings were always, it was a bit different because there's so many games condensed in such a short period of time. You start talking about load, periodization, things like that. Like we'd sometimes, it was mad. We'd play a game on a Thursday, but have another game on a Saturday. So a training session on a Friday, it's like you're recovering, you're in the ice bath, maybe you're getting out a little bit of technical, and that's it, because we're obviously not going to, go flogging ourselves when we've got a game the next day. When we had a bit more time, the beauty of it was we had so many numbers that we could always open up, go 11v11, start working on our shape, how we exactly want to play, etc. So I enjoyed it. I thought the coaching was good. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question.
And how about on the player side of things? Like, how do you see our youth players here compared to the youth players there in America?
Great question. I would argue, I reckon we're probably more technical over here. Yep. And I think, the more I'm in the coaching space and I'm watching a lot of kids football, I think kids are getting more technical. Like, I don't know about you guys, but I didn't do any one-on-one training as a kid. You know,
Yeah.
now we've got
Yeah.
Jonah footballs and all these private trainers, etc. You know, they really are working on technique and agility and, just a lot of really good fundamentals in the game. I think we're evolving a little bit. Kids are probably a bit different from us. A lot of them, I think, some of them don't even open their mouths on the field. There's less mongrel in, some players. I'm not saying that's for everyone. I just think the game's changing. But when I was over there, I thought a lot of the international players that came in were technical, they were good. What you get with the American kids, though, is they are athletic, they're hardworking. From middle school onwards, if they're in a soccer program at school, they're training every day, and then you get into college and you're training every single day. Like, that is built into these kids. Like, I always say to everyone, there's a reason those guys go and win the Olympics every 4 years. They love their sport over there. They really get behind it. Again, sometimes maybe they're not the most technical of players, but they're hard work, and I think population comes into probably why they win, the Olympics as well. But they've got the foundations there. I think we always do a presentation. There was a mad stat. I think the Tokyo Olympics 2020, there was over 1,000 NCAA former athletes that were competing.
Wow.
So
Jeez.
the college system really is that feeder into the professional pathway, and that's for all sports, like not just football. You look at your basketball, NFL, lacrosse, even rugby over there now has like a professional draft that they access from the college system.
Yeah. Well,
Wow.
I'm going back, obviously, touching on what the coaching was, what I experienced, obviously, over there. And the coaching here has improved these last 15 years a lot. Immensely. Where the attitude when any Aussie went over to Europe back then when I was over there, is that all we could do was run. We were hardworking. We couldn't play, right? That was the mentality towards us. But the coaching they get is more, especially when we go to the youth ages, is very much game situation coaching. So that's why they're ready by the time they're 18 years old. We're here, we're starting to implement that. But again, they're out training 4 or 5 times a week. We're doing it maybe twice a week at most. And it's the implementing those isolated skills in game scenarios, which we're starting to do a lot more now.
Yeah, interesting. I like that.
You touched on the tiers before, and I know you mentioned, I don't know what they're called. Obviously, in Australia, everyone knows you got your NPL 1, 2, and 3, and then you got your A League, and then all of your youth teams are pretty much based on that. Was there 3 different tiers, I believe, at your university level?
There's 3 different professional tiers in America. So you've got MLS, Championship, and then you can kind of realistically say you've got NISA, USL 1, MLS Next that sort of fall in that 3rd tier. Something that I talk to the kids a lot about is almost like the 4th tier, right? And this is something that probably a lot of you guys don't even know even exists. They've got this some people call it a pre-professional tier. I like to call it a pre-professional tier. So you get USL2, MPSL, UPSL clubs that they're kind of like our MPL, right? 3 separate associations. Like USL2's got like 120 odd teams. MPSL's got 90 odd teams. UPSL has got like over 400 teams, right?
Wow.
And this is some of the best college soccer players will play in these competitions, and they will mirror that with their college season. So it's mad. Like their pre-professional season starts in like May or something when it's peak summer over there. It's hot as hell. It's a bit backwards, but whatever. They play like a 20-odd game season, and then the lads will finish and then go straight into their college season from August. And if they're making, nationals all the way into December, and you can be blinking, you're playing, 40, 50 games, depending on how far you go within the season. So we had a lad last year, kid called Elliot. He was, when I signed him in 2021, was playing MPL 320s. Okay, you could see though from the video footage, and I had a good relationship with his coach who referred him to me. He was special. Like he was a good player. Probably shouldn't be playing MPL 3. Next year, got picked up by Olympic before he went to America. In between that, he'd signed for a Division 2 school in America, in Oklahoma, called OCU. At the time, took a massive gamble because I sort of said to him, like, hey, this program won 1 game last year, but they've just brought in a new coach that was at MacU in the NAIA that were number 1 in the nation. I was like, English guy, knows what he's talking about. I think you should take this school. And he actually paid a little bit more to go here based on my advice. So after Olympic, goes over there, has a really good freshman year. They were like top 16 in the country at Division 2 level when there's, over 200 odd different teams. So it's huge, right? From there, played really well, getting assists, scoring goals at left back. In the summer, we managed to get him a club in New York called Pathfinder FC. So he then combined his college career with a summer playing USL2 football, which was huge. He was in the Northeast Conference, some really top teams in there. I think BlackRock the year before moved 6 guys onto professional contracts within the US system somewhere. He went there, he played all summer, got 7 assists from left back, went back to OC for his sophomore year, got into the conference first team, played really well. He's just gone to a top 25 Division 1 school. So it just sort of shows you the pathway and the progression, right? Like, some kids will think, 19, 20, I'm playing NPL3, give up, well, that's a great story to say, like, hey, this is where, someone in this country can go. This is the pathway that it leads to. He's now playing top 25 Division 1 school. He's going to be on ESPN every week, even if he doesn't make this professional, hell, he can sit back and, on his armchair at the end of the day and go, I had a good old crack at it.
Yeah.
Can I ask as well, once sending over like that perfect example there, how far do you monitor those boys once they go over? Do you stay with them, just after you've sent them over and make sure they're sort of comfortable and then check back in occasionally, or do you follow throughout their whole career? Or
Yeah, great question. Not necessarily follow throughout their whole career and, go on. Like, I'm not a professional agent. I haven't gone down that path. It's not me. I just enjoy doing the whole America thing. While they're over there, I think, it depends. Some kids I click with, more than others. Some have gone that they don't really reach out. That's great. I'll check in every now and then, message, how's it going? Others like to call me all the time. It depends. I really enjoy having that relationship with the boys when they're over there because, I think for me, I didn't have that, older brother person as such to be able to check in, give me some advice, each step of the way. So I enjoy doing that with those boys, like Elliot, for example. I still speak to him on the phone all the time, checking in, hey, how's the new school going? Yeah, and he's just signed for another USL2 club. He's going to Michigan this summer, and it's going to be great to see, where that takes him. So, each are different, each kid, but, I will make the effort to keep in touch, check in, see how it's going. And, obviously some relationships where we talk more than others, and that's completely fine. But, I say to all of them, hey, my phone's there. If you need anything, give me a call.
Mm. Oh, that's awesome.
I thought you would have said a father figure, not brother figure. Sorry.
I'm 30 in a couple of months, but I'm not that old.
Fit right in. Oh, good.
He's not quite there yet, but do you get over much yourself now, like these days, to go to the players?
I went over in Jan. That was the first time I went back. Obviously, COVID, that 2-year window, it was just when we started the business. No point going over. Would have been a headache trying to get through. So, I went back last year, last January, sorry. So it was only about 8 weeks ago. I went to the coaches convention. So every year they hold a coaches convention in America. It's great. It's just like this one-stop football, fanatic center. There's everything. There's recruiters, college coaches, people doing sessions, you name it. Everyone in football goes there, especially within America. So it was in California. So I went back this time, did a couple of tours of some schools. Like I went to California State Fullerton, which is a massive Division 1 school. Boys, like the facilities they've got there, it's just like, it's a joke. Like I used to do a lot of work with Spark Football, and we were right next to Sydney FC. And obviously they've just built the new centre. It looks fantastic. But we used to walk past what they used to have, and I would just pinch myself and go, wow, I think every college in America is better than the setup that these guys have. Like Fullerton, they had a 20,000 seater stadium. They had like this press box, they had inside their locker rooms, they had a flat screen TV. They had let me get my words out. It's been a long day. Had an analyst.
You'd fit right into our podcast. Don't worry. We can't get
on Mondays.
either.
We need you on Mondays.
You should have heard Adam say dynamic about 5 times in the space of 3 seconds.
Actually, I thought it was pretty funny. You said it would have been a headache going over during COVID. It also would have been a bit of a runny nose and a cough as well.
That was just funny. I had plans for quite away.
You talk about the facilities, and obviously in America, you talk about the facilities in America being so much better than here. We've got a similar experience. I mean, when we went to Vegas and we saw the casinos over there, unbelievable. We come back home, we're going, what are these facilities? We're used to the Cosmo.
Good. Well, funny because a lot of the Premier League teams actually went over there, and I remember hearing some stories, and they all just raved about how amazing the facilities were there. So it's
ridiculous. Like I walked past the gym, and the softball team were training at the time, and they worked in pairs, so they all worked on their own separate squat rack. They had a trainer going around running the session. This is where it just got mad, right? They stuck an iPad up on the side of the squat rack. It filmed all of their movements, tracked everything they did. They had to log each exercise as they went. Like, just the data that they go through and they track and they measure, it was ridiculous. Like, you know, the coach said to me, he goes, we film every training session. All the games are filmed. At halftime, we come in, we've broken down the moments that we want to look at. He goes, if a player comes to me and goes, Coach, why am I not playing? I'll go, okay, cool. Brings up the iPad, bang, 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 bang. This is what you did in training. These are the mistakes you made. This is what you need to work on. We can see you're not going to the gym enough, blah, 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 blah. It's just on a
unreal
level, boys. Like,
unreal.
I was walking around the place going, these kids don't know how lucky they are.
Yeah. Unreal.
How is, like, football perceived over there? Like, obviously, we just saw the NRL trying to crack the American shores now. But obviously they're big sports. You've got your NFL, your baseball, your basketball. How does football rate compared to those sports?
Well, under the age of 18, it's the most played sport in America.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, across men's and women's. I mean, it's big, but it probably almost has the same problem as Australia. There's so many sports that it's probably going to struggle to be number one. You know what I mean? Like, and I think that's a big problem in this country. You know, we've got league, union. Well, no one really watches union anymore. It's a dying sport. Cricket, AFL, bit similar in America, right? You know, you got your basketball, your NFL, all those sorts of sports. But it is right up there. You know, they're throwing a lot of money at it. You know, obviously the World Cup's coming over there again. You've got Messi over there. The MLS, let's be real, it's thriving. I always love to tell the story. Remember when the A-League first started and the Galaxy come over with Beckham and Sydney FC? Let's be real, wiped the floor with them. It was 5-3, but they were a better team on that day. And then you look at where the A-League's gone, you look at where the MLS has gone, you're like, how the hell?
I remember, actually, I was at that game.
Yeah.
Beckham free kick.
Yeah. I went to his...
They let it in, eh? You can't come here. Come. But you're so right there. You're so right. Well, actually, the A-League was better than the MLS at that stage. And it's incredible how much America has just progressed since then, and Australia just hasn't moved.
Fallen behind. I went to Beckham's shoot at David Jones the day after as well. I was following.
Boy.
I thought I saw you in the background. It's his stunt double, man.
Well, I think that's the problem with obviously the funding here, because like we touched on it with Andrew last week, that the registration costs here and trying to keep the sport alive regarding funding compared to even, I mean, another story, you mentioned obviously America putting the funding in since the MLS started, but countries like Japan, since they actually hosted the World Cup, and I think obviously hosting a World Cup is a big thing for it. I think Australia should really learn from the Women's World Cup, because that generated such a buzz around the country to then go, okay, this is worth investing in. Because even look at Japan, when we're back in the early 2000s, they hosted the World Cup, and then since then, how strong their footballing is, because they've funded so much. I think it's something we should probably look to replicate.
Mate, sailing's the number one funded sport in Australia.
What's that? Sorry.
Sailing is the number one funded sport in Australia.
That's
and so
wild.
it should be.
Those boats.
Start a sailing podcast coming soon, every Thursday.
Shout out to our sailing friends,
Yeah,
our sailing sons.
yeah, sailing sons.
So it should be, Stephen. Fair
Sailing
play.
sons parks the boat.
Yeah. Sailors of the week.
I'm no politician, but yeah, obviously more funding would be great. You know, I'm not here to sit here and solve Australia's football problems. You know, I like to talk the positives about it. Like you said, James, like the coaching has come a long way over the
Yeah.
years. Let's look at our women's game. Like I remember, boys, when we were growing up, there was no women's NPL. There was, girls weren't very good when we grew up. I don't know if that's a controversial thing to say, but I go and watch the girls now, and they are brilliant. Like,
Yeah.
I really enjoy going down to watch women's football. I'm like, I pinch myself and go, wow, fair play. That's come a long way, since
A couple of episodes ago, me and James actually did a bit of a quiz, and women's football was actually the 4th most watched sport around the world.
Wow.
Yeah,
This year,
it
the World
trumped
Cup.
like Super Bowl. It beat everything. I think like the Women's
Really?
World Cup skyrocketed.
Man.
It did wonders for everything. So
we all got around it here, didn't we? Like,
Yeah.
the Tillies were a big thing. Going to the pub, watching the game, getting like
Absolutely.
tickets for a nightmare. Trying to get tickets to games.
Absolutely.
And like, yeah, we proper got the bug. And I mean, you're looking at it now. Like the Tillies are still selling out crowds and whatnot. The Socceroos are falling behind in that regard.
Yeah, and that's what I'm
Well-
saying. I think the governing body probably should need to ride that wave, considering we've just had the World Cup here as well. The
100%.
way that how well the Tillies are going, and how many superstars we've got playing overseas now as well, and ride that wave and start really investing in football in this country.
Yeah.
Was there anything else that you wanted to obviously plug, promote? Any other players that you wanted to touch on before we get into the biggest question of them all? I know you're excited.
You're sweating.
He's excited.
I'm just waiting for another Stephen Cracker over there. Flood sailing. Let's make sailing great again, baby.
Oh shit!
Well, let's go to the big question. Well, I'm going to give a bit of a background. So the people that are watching this don't know what a coach's son is, or what kind of coach's son behaviour you got to look for. Someone that is the best player that gets on the park, but they probably think they are the best player. They're the kind of player that can score a free kick, but they can't run. They can, they walk around like they are the best, but they're not, and they're going to have shock all the time. But they're just someone that just shows. I don't know. Is there any other examples, guys, of people showing coach's son
They
behaviour?
come off the bench and the whole crowd laughs at them.
That's another one. Yes. There's a bit of a jab at someone there, but yeah. So you won't be showing coach's son behaviour. So, Dylan, the big question: who has been your coach's son of the year so far?
What did you say? Coach's son of the year, or
Oh, you got one just for last week. I mean, you've obviously been watching the episodes. We like this. Who's your coach's son? You tell us.
There's one in particular, and he's got the biggest brown nose you'll ever see, and it's Andrew Fotokopoulos. I tell you, the coach's son has to be him. You should see him at Spark Football. He's 2IC. Absolute golden child. Loves it. Absolutely loves it. You will hear Andrew walking around the field, and I swear to God, 10 to 20 times in a night, you'll hear, you love it. You love it. He's the ultimate coach's son. Absolute legend of a bloke, and I must apologise for throwing him under the bus. I can't wait for him to hear this.
We love it.
Well,
That's hilarious.
we love it. I think, Stephen, you nominated another coach in the other episode just recently, a couple of days ago.
Yeah, Deserby, 100%. I'm all
So
about
you're
it.
So absolutely allowed to nominate your coach's son. Would Dylan he be your coach's son, not just of the year, but just of all the years, you reckon? Or just of all time?
Coach's son of all time. So we're referring to a player here, right?
No, I'll say, is Andrew your coach's son of all time, surely?
Hey, he did play. He used to play.
He did play.
I never got to play with him. I actually played against him back when I was at Dunbar. I think he was at Magic. I don't know if you boys were there at the same time as well. Going back a bit now, 2017 was the year. I played against him, so I don't know if he was necessarily the coach's son. I mean, what are you referring to? Like maybe someone in the wider world, like a public figure we're looking at as like an ultimate coach's son.
Maybe you could pick a standout. Is there a specific league maybe that you watch more than others at the moment?
Oh, it's got to be the Prem. Yeah, sure.
Anyone stick out? There's some good contenders this year, I tell you.
There's a good few. Jordan Henderson was a good coach.
Oh,
That's a good shout. I like that.
Yeah,
I
he's
like
good.
that at all.
Absolutely. I'm a Liverpool fan. Some of the fan base.
they
hate
love
it.
it.
Time to go.
This is what I'm asking you now. We're not at the start of
Even I can see all the Spurs gear going on in the background.
I
didn't even put it there. I
How are
didn't
you
put it
like
there.
an Antwerp? What are your genuine thoughts on?
Well, me and James, obviously, we're nutcases, right? We've been watching every single game since we could pretty much watch TV.
Open our eyes.
We're absolutely loving it at the moment, of course. From what we've come from to what we're seeing now, every game is exciting. You don't know what's going to happen. Even the game where we lost to Brighton, we were down 4-0. I thought we were going to come back and win that game, honestly.
I remember watching that actually. Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it's unreal. And
I've,
Liverpool's going to get lucky this year.
I've heard a few people float his name for the Liverpool job, and I've said I'd happily take him.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah,
I think
no way.
if this wasn't his first season, I feel like he'd jump in a heartbeat.
I agree.
Why would he go there?
I think we've already
Please.
agreed on this pod that it's already going to Graham Arnold, right?
Correct, Graham Arnold.
Good City. It's coming.
Taking all the big guns with him. Mitch Duke.
Do you reckon he's going to get the Liverpool job then, boys?
I don't know. It's hard to step away from Alonso, but
Yeah.
I've heard talks that Bayern Munich is now in talks with him too. So who really knows? I think it's going to be a surprise for everyone, but it's going to be someone that's starting their journey again. I don't think you're ever going to replace him, to be honest. So
No.
we're just going to have to wait and see. And we're sort of lucky that the team got a refresh already. So it's more like the coach is just going to come in and start his own sort of his own strategies and start his own thing. So I don't know. It's
I
too
think
hard
it'd
to
be
tell, to be
Alonso.
honest.
I mean,
It has to be.
there has to be ex-player. Yeah, that familiarity of having him around as well will do Liverpool good, considering someone who's been there. Klopp's been there for 9 years. Yeah, to lose someone you're so familiar with for however many years, replacing someone that you were previously familiar with would soften the blow a bit as well.
Yeah.
Klopp should just stay for one more year to do his 10 years so he can get himself a testimonial match.
Yeah.
But
get his long service.
He's getting a statue. That bloke. I don't care what anyone says.
Oh yeah,
I'm
absolutely,
going to myself.
absolutely. You got to get his veneers in there too in the statue. But
He'll build it himself. But he's a bit tight, so probably won't.
the statue will be bronze, but his teeth will be pearly white.
Oh,
good.
Well, on that note, no, Dylan,
Oh, not.
thank you on that note. On that note.
On that note, buonanotte.
Thank you very much for joining us on the Coach's Son Parks the Bus. We've already appreciate you coming on, and maybe one day down the future we could get you back on for another chat to see how everyone's going.
Follow the
That'd be
journey.
great, mate. Yeah, thank you very much, mate. Much
I appreciate
appreciated.
having me, boys. Had a good laugh, so thank you very much.
This was not meant